Good evening.
Bald eagle.
Come on a Sunday night. What more do you want than that?
Look at that. Northern Florida, American Eagle Foundation webcam. We love that, don't we?
Beautiful. An iconic bird.
Iconic bird, of course.
Like an iconic poodle.
But they were in such desperate trouble, bald eagles. Hunting, pesticides crisis. I mean, they were critically endangered, but enormous amounts of conservation across Canada and the contiguous United States of America. Okay, here's a question for you then. Okay, so they're in all American states minus one.
Oh no. Texas.
Hawaii!
Of course!
Hawaii, it's the contiguous American states.
I thought you were going to ask me which one were they most prevalent in. I know that.
Yeah.
Go on, which state?
Alaska, surely. Yeah. Alaska, surely.
You know everything.
Yeah, because of the salmon, because they're sympatric species with our white-tailed eagle, which is, and they're both types of fish eagle, basically. So the salmon stocks, which are not as strong as they used to be, but are still there in Alaska, mean that that's where they're doing really well. Anyway, listen.
Yeah.
Having started the little broadcast, I'm going to immediately walk out.
It's rude, isn't it?
Sorry, I'm going to be very rude. I have to leave for 5 minutes to talk about an exciting new BBC series, which I might tell you a bit about later on, but I've got to go and tell someone else at this point in time.
Go on, off you go.
I'm going.
Leave them to it.
Oh yeah, we've got a great quiz.
We do have a good quiz. We've
got a brilliant guest.
We do.
Lindsay, Kelsey, all good stuff,
all good stuff. I'm going to sit right in the centre now. Take over for a little bit. Chris will be back imminently. It'll just be a few minutes. He's got to do a radio interview about a series that's coming out on Sunday, the 21st of February, called Animal Einsteins. It is something to be very excited about. I've heard stories about what happens within the series. Trust me, it's going to be really, really cool. Really, really cool. But he'll tell you a bit more about it when he eventually comes back. Maybe he's just gone for an... Do you know what? I bet he's actually gone to go and eat some of those lentil chips. I bet he's gone... He's not doing an interview at all. He's just gone to sneak out to eat some more of those lentil chips. But anyway, let's get on with SIBC. Now, there's some fantastic news that's happened this week. Now, you might remember the Love Minsmere campaign. Of course, Minsmere was in a little bit of trouble because there were applications of putting up a power plant right next to it, which would, of course, damage all of its wonderful biodiversity. But I'm really pleased to say that within this week, it reached 100,000 signatures on the petition. So thank you so much to everybody who signed the Love Minsmere campaign and everyone who's fought to protect it. The fight isn't over. We've got a lot of work left to do to protect this beautiful site for biodiversity in our environment. But, 100,000 signatures, it's a step there. Still share it, though. Continue to get that number up, because why not? The more numbers, the more voices, the more people, the better chance that we've got of protecting this fantastic site. So what have we got coming up? Well, it's a good one today. So my friend Kelsey is going to be on. She is currently in Namibia, and she has, I would say, one of the best jobs perhaps in the entire world, because she works with an animal that is just so unusual and so beautiful, so charismatic and so rare. And she has the privilege of researching these creatures on a daily basis. I'm, of course, talking about pangolins. Pangolins being the most trafficked animal in the world. And there was actually a survey done throughout the UK recently. And they got loads of photos of different wildlife, different animals, and they asked people to identify what it was. And I think it was something like only about 20% of people in the UK could identify a pangolin. They are so unheard of, they're so rare, so we really do need to build this awareness of them and the plight of the pangolin in the traditional medicine trade. But Kelsey will be on to talk a little bit about her research and a little bit all about that. We've also, of course, got the wonderful Lindsay Chapman. Lindsay joins us, of course, for all of these broadcasts. You'll know her very well by now. She goes through some of your photos and videos that you send in to us on our Facebook group. So we'll be sharing some of those, talking a little bit about the behaviour and the things that you've been seeing in your garden. So that's always good fun. But first, a little bit of admin. There's always a bit of admin. If you haven't clicked subscribe yet, please do. The word subscribe kind of means that you have to pay something, but you don't at all. It's all free. Just that little button that says subscribe down there. It means that we can keep up to date with you and let you know when our broadcasts are going to be, because now we're heading into spring. We might change the time and the day of our broadcast a little bit so that we're matched with the sunlight, and a bit of warm weather would be quite nice. And maybe we can, I don't know if you remember in spring, but we put that live camera, didn't we, on our bird feeder, and we had a stream of lots of different live stuff happening. So we're looking forward to getting back to that. So make sure that you keep up to date by clicking subscribe, and then we'll be able to let you know. Apparently only 50% of you are subscribed at the moment. So come on, we need to boost that number up, and we'll keep nagging, we'll keep moaning, because that's what we do to make sure that everyone is subscribed and keeps up to date. So, quiz, of course. What is this feather? Now, you know the drill. We get an animal item and we ask you to identify what species it belongs to. So put all your answers and thoughts in the comment section below, and we will get back to it at the end of the broadcast. Now, there's two feathers here. I'm going to give you the hard feather first, but I will give you the slightly more challenging feather. Have a look at this. You can see my finger for scale. It's quite narrow, black. It kind of slightly got a bit of a tinge to it in the light there, but that's all feathers do. And have a look at this. Pings back very quickly. It's got a lot of strength in this feather, so that might give you not only an idea of the animal, but exactly what part of the bird this feather came from. In fact, if you get which part of the bird this feather came from, get a bonus point. Bonus point. So let us know what species you think it is and where you think it came from. This second feather, though, it gives you a bit more of a hint. Have a look at that. Look at the tip of that feather. It's a very distinctive pattern. This is a species which is found throughout the UK. It might be coming to your feeders, and when it does, it's always very exciting because they're one of my favourite birds. My favourite birds. But let's have a little look at our bald eagle again, because, I mean, that was pretty spectacular, wasn't it? Let's have a little look. We go back. Fabian's going to bring up. So this is the nest. Now, bald eagles tend to nest very kind of high up in the trees. You can sometimes see nests around rivers, and they are some of the most spectacular birds on the planet. They've been the national bird of the USA since 1782, so they really have been kind of commonplace in that culture. And I mean, it's everywhere, isn't it? These bald eagles. I mean, they're absolutely stunning. Not bald at all, of course. That beautiful white head, that white plumage there, very distinctive, and a beautiful yellow bill as well. And I believe I'm right in saying that when this individual stands up, there might be a chick under there as well, which is really exciting. So we'll be able to keep an eye on this live camera going forward and keep up to date with the progression of this youngster. It's amazing. They live. Oh, is she going to get up? Oh, go on. Have a little turn around. You know you want to. No, just a bit of a wiggle. Sit back down again. But they can live up to 28 years old. So they reach sexual maturity at quite a late point. So it's a real privilege to be able to get this insight. Such an amazing bird. Look at that. Absolutely stunning. Now that is, incredibly relaxing. We all know that the benefits of watching live cameras can have. They have significant impacts on our mental health. You don't always have to see them directly, but seeing things through a screen just has almost as good a benefit for our mental health as seeing things in person. So keep an eye on this camera, but also our mindfulness moments. Now we know you love mindfulness moments in Winterwatch. I love mindfulness moments. They're really great. It's a time to sit back, relax, and enjoy. And today we've got Tim Beach, who's going to tell us a little bit about a very special place. So let's go for a bit of a mindfulness moment. How stunning is that? Snow. I love a bit of snow. We haven't had any snow here, and I've been very envious. Oh, hello.
Hello.
Look who's back. Just in time.
Just in time.
Just in time. We're going to Kelsey in a second.
Excellent. It's World Pangolin Day, isn't it?
Well, it will be on the 20th of February.
Yeah.
But we were just looking at a mindfulness moment of some beautiful snow. I love a bit of snow. I'm very envious because we haven't had any.
I haven't missed some fantastic pictures, have I?
Well, you missed a beautiful mindfulness moment of stunning snow.
Oh, Tim Birch
snowscape.
Okay.
Yeah, it was really stunning.
And did you do the quiz?
I did do the quiz.
So pleased with these.
Yes, if we've done that.
Hey, did you get everyone to listen to it? That's how stiff the feather is.
I know, there's an extra point if you can guess where on the bird that feather comes from.
Excellent, excellent, top work.
I like to wrap it up a little bit.
Then.
Anyway, so let's go and see Kelsey, who's over in Okanjima AfriCat Nature Reserve in Namibia. I've known Kelsey now for nearly 2 years when I went to visit Okanjima to do some filming. So I'm very excited to catch up with her and hear about what's going on. So Kelsey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. I'm so sad we've just missed that beautiful sunset. It was all purple before and now it's all lost the light.
Yeah, it's getting a bit dark. Thanks so much for having me. I guess it's actually the perfect setting since pangolin are nocturnal. You've got me at night.
Yeah, well, you're about to go out and do some tracking, I believe, after this. So tell us a little bit about your research with them.
Yeah, so I started my thesis with pangolin with the AfriCat Pangolin Research Project. And my thesis focused on the ecology of pangolin in central Namibia. It's the first established research project within Namibia to look at such a subject. And the main goal was to get more information about pangolin that we can make better decisions about what to do with live trafficked pangolin that are seized by local authorities. And so the focus was looking at home range sizes, social dynamics, as well as prey preference and burrow selection.
Because they're very specific, aren't they? I mean, the choice of prey that they choose to eat, I mean, they can't just go out and eat anything. It's termites and ants, things that are high in nitrogen. But I mean, it's specific species of termites and ants, isn't it?
Yeah, so they predominantly eat ant species. In the rainy season, they actually almost exclusively eat only 2 ant species out of almost 30 or over 30 species available to them. And there's a handful of other species they prefer. At the end of the day, where we are in central Namibia, it's about 5 to 6 species that they eat. And like I said, there's over 30 available. So they're very particular. And they also prefer different species in different parts of the country, depending on the habitat and the soil and the different regions.
That surely then makes it quite tricky, doesn't it? Because I know some of your research is about how to, after pangolins have been caught in the illegal wildlife trade and they get rescued, and about kind of release and rehabilitation. I mean, releasing a pangolin when you don't know where it comes from, I mean, that must be really hard when it's got a specific preference for a food type like that.
Yeah, that's actually very, very difficult. We've got a really good idea now of what they prefer in central Namibia. And so moving forward, I'll be establishing sites across Namibia in different regions. And we're hoping that once we get a good idea from every area what they're preferring, when we get an individual, we can look at what they choose to eat and hopefully get a better idea of where they need to be released back to.
Astonishing animals. Do you know, Kelsey, when I was a kid, I had animal encyclopedias like many young people do, and the pangolin was one of my favourite pages. I could barely believe there was a scaled mammal out there somewhere. And after many trips to Africa, I'd failed to ever bump into a pangolin, because at that time, without researchers like yourself, it was impossible to sort of go anywhere and see a pangolin to order, or any kind of order. And then going back a few years now, I was at Okanjima, where you're speaking from tonight, and I'd been there many times, and I'd said to them, look, if ever a pangolin turns up, give me a shout, and I'll run naked through the bush to see it.
Nobody wanted to see that.
No one would have wanted to see that, but I wanted to see the pangolin so desperately. Anyway, I've got a picture here. It just so happened that Megs was with me on this particular trip, and the call came in. We were just having our supper, and then we heard that there was this pangolin, and we rushed out and managed to take some photographs of it, and we moved it. The reason why we've picked it up here is it was in the middle of a junction of 3 large tracks where a car had disturbed it and it had balled up. So we took it out and safely released it in the bush. It was one of the highlights of my life. They are an extraordinary animal. What is it about the pangolin from your point of view that makes them such a fabulous creature to study?
Well, it's difficult, right? I decided to study them because they're in such desperate need, because there is no research being done on them. And after the first time I got to see one, I kind of just fell in love. And I don't know if you had the same experience, but they're quite gentle, quite timid. And, they all have their own personality, just like people do. And, it really touched me that these poor innocent animals have no defense against poaching, and they really are such gentle souls. And it really kind of, I found a calling that, you know, I can hopefully do something to help protect them and save them.
And again, since you've started your work, we've seen some extraordinary images that you've managed to.
Is this a youngster coming on? Look at that, a young pangolin.
Here's a young one here, but we've seen youngsters underground with infrared. I mean, it's not unfair to say that your researchers and your work with them has taught us a lot relatively quickly about these animals that we didn't know.
Yeah, thanks. It's been a long 3 years of dedication working like the night schedule, the night shift, but it's really been a privilege to get to even see what I've gotten to see. And it feels so much better to get to share it with the world, to see how these animals live and truly how amazing they are.
Kelsey, there's been a lot of questions coming in from people watching. I think everyone is just fascinated by pangolins, just like we are. So I wanted to get through a couple of these. And I know some of them, you know, they are under research. So, but your research goes a long way in explaining perhaps some of these questions. But in what type of family groups do pangolins live is one question that's just come in.
That's a really good question. So up until now, research has showed that they are solitary, and males and females only come together to mate. And the females will raise the pup until 3 to 4 months of age, and that's around when they wean them. And the pup will stay in the natal home range, so the home range which they were born, for about 1 year until they disperse. Here, I have actually witnessed quite often the father revisiting the burrow, and as part of my ongoing research, what role does that play? Is there any purpose for that? But typically they're quite solitary. We don't find males and females together often. It's usually just a mother and her offspring. And then after about a year, the offspring will find its new home range and territory and settle into a new area.
That's great. Another question that's come in is, do pangolin scales show annual growth rings like mollusks do? Or is it like fingernails, and does it wear down over time?
So it's much more like fingernails. Sorry, I'm getting attacked by bugs out here. We've had a lot of rain. It's much more like fingernails. It's actually difficult at this stage. We're looking at doing some genetic work to try and age the scales, but as they stay in deep burrows that have a lot of rocks, they come across predators, different things. They'll break off the ends of their scales, or sometimes actually even wear them down into a very, very sharp point. Sometimes it's almost like a razor, and this is actually their main defense against predators. I've found it quite often they're rolled up with blood on the scale, and most likely a predator stuck its nose too close, and what they do is they thrash around, and they have these really sharp scales that they can cut the predators.
It's amazing, isn't it? I mean, I was always really shocked to know that the scales themselves, when they're rolled up in a ball, I mean, under its belly it's super soft, but those scales are so soft that when a predator, you know, like a big cat comes along, I mean, I'm not entirely sure about leopards because I know they've got a really strong bite, but I mean, they really does protect them, those scales, doesn't it, from even the biggest of cats?
Yeah, very often a brush with a hyena or a leopard is not much for a pangolin. Sometimes I see a scale missing, but they have a very good immune system, and it usually scars over. The scales don't grow back, and they carry on their way. We actually have a big problem with predators biting the transmitters off, because when they're rolled tight in the ball, there's nothing for that predator to grab onto, so it will grab onto the transmitter and pull it and end up biting or ripping it off.
Kelsey, just to begin to wrap up, we're going to celebrate World Pangolin Day, and the reason why we draw people's attention to these animals is that they are said to be the most trafficked group of animals in the world. So traditional medicine means that in both Africa and other parts of the world, those scales and other body parts are valued. Give us an idea of how critical it is that we conserve these species as quickly as possible.
Yeah, so they are the most trafficked mammal worldwide, and They are classified as Appendix 1 by CITES, which means they are threatened with extinction. This is the same classification that is given to rhinoceros. There's 8 species worldwide, 4 in Africa, 4 in Asia, and they all range from being critically endangered to vulnerable. The species which are listed as vulnerable have been very under-researched, and we have almost no idea of true populations, which is why they're listed vulnerable at this point. But all populations are decreasing, and unfortunately, they're making the news on a regular basis of large seizures, sometimes up to 30 tons, which could be over 50,000 pangolin in one seizure.
Horrific.
There was one recently, wasn't there? Just a couple of weeks ago. I think
yeah.
it was in Nigeria, and as you mentioned, 30 tons of pangolin scales.
Unbelievable.
So this is just the scales, not the wet weight of the body of those animals as well.
Yeah.
The scale of the sort of exploitation and harvesting is difficult to comprehend, isn't it?
It's huge.
Yeah, it's quite tragic. So it's definitely so important to raise awareness, bring people's attention, and keep researching and working on plans, because many African nations, there's still quite a few people in government who don't even know what a pangolin is. And thankfully in Namibia, we're a bit ahead of that. But yeah, it's just, we really need to raise awareness, work on developing plans to protect them before it's too late.
Absolutely. And I mean, you've just started, just to wrap up, you've just started your own NGO, which is the Pangolin Conservation and Research Foundation. So just tell us a little bit about that and what you're hoping to achieve with it.
Yeah, so while doing my thesis with the AfriCat project, I realized there's a huge gap in conservation efforts. There's no coordination between government, NGOs, and all of these other things, which actually led me to my role as the secretariat of the Namibian Pangolin Working Group, which is chaired by the local government, the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism. And so I've created this NGO to have a support network within Namibia to help conduct research, which we will use to establish further guidelines and conservation management plans to continue to raise awareness and educate, educating the local communities especially. First, we need to research and understand what's fueling the local trade and what we can try and do to change that mindset to the value of pangolin within the ecosystem. They consume a large number of pests, ants and termites, and those ants and termites eat the food for wildlife and livestock. So we want to kind of change the view on pangolin, and also at the same time provide jobs for people in the community, while also raising the level of awareness internationally.
So important.
It's great.
Yeah.
And just before you go, Kelsey, big reach out to AfriCat and Okanjima. Meg and I are great friends, of course. We've been going there for many years, got friends there. It's difficult times, isn't it, for ecotourism in Africa? And as a consequence of that, a lot of the research, things like you've been doing, projects that you and your colleagues have been working on, are running into financial difficulties because there's just simply not the people on the ground contributing those valuable funds in that direction.
Yeah, it's quite sad. It's very difficult. The project here had been mostly funded through ecotourism, and with the closing of the international borders, that halted. Thankfully, some local NGOs stepped in to support us. Also, the University of St. Andrews, the Namibian Chamber of Environment, stepped up and helped us out when we couldn't carry on without tourism. And now it's quite tough with this new NGO. Normally we would apply for a lot of grants, but some of the major grants that we would normally get are not there, such as IUCN Save Our Species, Mohammed bin Zayed, National Geographic. I think Busch Gardens and SeaWorld also just sent out an email this week that they will not accept grants until 2023. So it's actually looking quite scary for the future of conservation, action and research at the moment.
Yeah,
it is looking scary. I think we're going to have to work very hard to make sure that researchers like yourself are able to continue that work, particularly when it comes to critical species like pangolin. Kelsey, thanks ever so much for joining us. Please say a massive hello to Tristan, Wayne and Donna, our friends at Okajima, and we look forward at some stage in the future, perhaps,
hopefully,
being able to reunite and see your work in the field. But it's been brilliant having you on.
It's been
fantastic.
Brilliant. Yeah, I know you've got to get out tracking again, Kelsey, looking after those pangolins.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, and I'll also say hi to the pangolins for you guys.
Yeah, we miss them.
Don't wait too long to come visit.
Absolutely not. As soon as we can.
As soon as we're allowed.
As soon as it's safe to do so, we'll, hopefully.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you, Kelsey. We'll
Cheers,
speak
Kelsey.
to you soon.
Bye.
Thank you. Ciao.
Oh, one of my favourite places in the world.
I know.
Okajima, AfriCat.
Favourite animals. Just extraordinary.
I went to volunteer there when I was 17 years old, and I went there for a month, 2 months?
3 months.
3 months. I was there for a while.
Not long enough. I mean, just about managed to tidy the house up.
I agree. It wasn't long enough. But it is one of my favourite places in the world.
It's a beautiful part of the world.
Honestly.
Lovely people.
Yeah.
But suffering on account of that ecotourism impact.
Yeah.
Which
so
is,
make sure you check out Okajima and AfriCat, because you can find them on social media, as you can Kelsey, and of course her Pangolin Conservation and Research Foundation. It's good to follow these people and support them, click share on all their work, because they do some fantastic stuff for conservation.
What's coming up?
Well, we've got Paul Hartley.
Paul Hartley?
This I'm very excited about, yes.
Okay.
So now you might know Paul Hartley. Well, of course you know Paul Hartley. He is the wondrous man that does the Pansy Project. And and he does gentle referencing. You might remember his beautiful artwork where he does his makeup, his hair and his clothing to represent the birds themselves.
Which he's illustrated. Fantastic. Look, I've got one of his.
Yeah,
here we are. This is one of Paul's garments that he's made. Yeah, with a wax wing on. Love the cinnamon colour and the wax wing. Yeah, that's one of my favourite tops, actually.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he went out and gave everyone a challenge whether they would like to draw their own birds and gently reference them themselves.
First of all, he did young people first.
first.
We reported on that a little while back.
Yeah.
But some of the adults tried to sort of sneak in their entries because they were so keen.
So keen.
They were so keen.
I don't blame them. Yeah.
But he then repeated the competition with adults.
Yeah.
And it really is worth checking them out.
Yes.
There are a whole range.
Well, you can see them on this VT coming up.
Oh, we're going to run it?
Yes, we are.
Go on then. Let's have a look.
Let's have a little peek.
Hello, Chris and Megs, and all you bird lovers. It's me, Paul Hartley, speaking again about Birds Can Fly. Last year, I hosted a competition that was won by the amazing Elsie and her Spinifex pigeon. It looked a bit like this. And I was so delighted to be able to send her prizes, which were a signed copy of my book, Pansy Boy, an item from my clothing range, and a drawing of her choice, a Seychelles kestrel that looked a bit like this. Apparently, lots of the adults were furious that they weren't able to enter. So I hosted a grown-ups version. Didn't really expect anyone to enter, but I have had over 60 entries from all over the world. I don't think it's possible for me to express how emotional it made me feel to see so many people enter, to take the time to draw a bird of their choosing and to gently reference it in the way that I have been doing. So, without further ado, I think we should have a look at some of my favourites in the gallery. Been amazing to see all of the different ages, all of the different styles of drawing, and all the brilliant outfits, probably gleaned from their own wardrobe just as I have done. Some of them are hilarious, and there were some really touching stories too. But what was most amazing is seeing families join in, and mums and dads and their kids were all drawing a bird together and then dressing up and gently referencing just as I have done. It has been such an amazing thing to be able to do, and I don't know, I can't thank you all enough. Unfortunately though, there does have to be a winner. I thought that you, Chris and Megs, would like the honour of announcing the winner, so I've organised, I've written down the winner in this piece of paper, and Kieran, my kestrel, is going to deliver it to you just in time for the live broadcast. Here we go, come on, here we go. Here we are, here he comes. Okay, there. Okay, now he's going to take that. And that will be with you in time for your broadcast. So thank you so much for making that announcement. And thank you all so much for taking the time to enter the Birds Can Fly competition. It really has been a complete treat. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Can you see him? Can you see? Wait,
Kieran the Kestrel.
where? Oh, there is that.
He's
Ready?
so well
Wait, he's
trained.
gonna, are you ready? Go, go, go. Oh! Thank you, Kieran.
Honestly.
Kieran the Kestrel has sent us. Thank you very much, Kieran.
Right.
Very good, Kestrel.
Moment of truth then.
Moment of truth. Ready?
Okay.
Drum roll.
Right, hold on.
Some great work. Can I just say, well done to everyone who entered, because they are
absolutely
amazing.
stunning. Absolutely
Seriously,
stunning, weren't they? Okay.
incredible. Yeah.
Well, Paul has deliberated, and he had a very difficult job there,
Yeah.
quite clearly. But in second place, Scarlett and her roller.
Look
Here
at that.
she is.
Amazing, isn't it?
Look at that.
She looks sensational,
She
as does her
look
illustration.
absolutely sensational. Very 1920s, 30s. I
Yeah,
have
it's a
to
bit
say.
Egyptian.
Yes, well,
Slightly.
again, the Art Deco movement was influenced by that in the 1920s and 30s. And the roller picture's pretty good too, isn't it?
It is good, isn't it?
Yes, look at that.
It looks stunning. Yeah,
So,
well done,
in
Scarlett.
second place, Scarlett. In first place, and will win a copy of Pansy Boy, an original drawing, one of Paul's original drawings, which is sensational, and a Birds Can Fly item of clothing, like my very own
Bird Lover
t-shirt, which a sort of sweatshirt, which
I
is
like
top,
that. I
top,
really like your top.
top, actually,
Mm,
call it a top, yeah.
I'll have to get one.
Fantastic. So who's won? I'll tell you who's won.
Mm.
Charlie with his ornate hawk eagle.
Look
Look at that.
He looks great, doesn't he?
He looks so
It's everything
cool.
from how he's gelled his hair,
Yeah,
and the
Yep.
yellow
And moustache.
lips, the moustache,
the moustache, bit of yellow for the sear around the eye
Yeah.
and the beak there. And then look at the t-shirt. So well done
It's
with the
brilliant,
barring on
isn't
the
it?
t-shirt.
the dressing gown.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's
The
good.
hood.
It's very, very
it
good.
is good.
Congratulations to Charlie there. That is absolutely superb.
I love
Good
that.
range of prizes as well. I'd go for the cinnamon bird lover thing.
Yeah, you like
Charlie,
that one. Yeah.
personally, but
Yeah.
there we are.
There's
I'll
some
tell you what
great
Paul
stuff
said.
on it.
It says here, there were so many brilliant entries, though each of these amazing depictions combined a beautiful illustration with a magic, gentle reference that I completely fell in love with. What about
It's
that?
fantastic. Yeah,
Paul Hartley, such a top bloke.
seriously. Yeah,
Such a top
He's an
bloke.
absolute hero.
Really, really good idea, and everyone's got into it big time.
Yeah.
And it must have been really hard picking a winner because there were
Yeah, tricky job.
lots of good ones there.
Mm.
Time for Lindsay.
Time for
I haven't seen
Lindsay.
Lindsay for a little
I
while.
know, Lindsay, how you doing?
Hello, guess who's back? It's me. Lovely to see lovely to see you all. And I have to say that I am in amongst the chat tonight, and so many people saying congratulations to Charlie. As I looked through, I was like, that one is an absolute cracker. So very well done indeed. But I must point out as well that producer Kate, our producer Kate, she had a go as well. And I've got to show you this picture in close up. Look at the gentle referencing here. Yes, Kate, this is a white-headed bulbul. Look at those shoes.
She's got a great shoe collection, Kate. But look at that posing as well, like the way that she's positioned on that.
We got the
collection
white-headed bulbul though. Where's the
Have we-
white-headed bulbul?
have we
Because
got an
Kate also did the drawing as well of the bird. Maybe we don't have that.
I don't know if we've got that. So
Yeah.
you'll have to imagine how excellent that is, because it's superb. The hair, the feet, everything, really good. Go and have a little look online. So very well done to Kate.
We got it.
I have it. Just
Oh.
sorry, Lindsay. I've just thought I'd show you. This is Kate's drawing.
There we are.
She'll probably tell me off for showing this. But there's Kate's white-headed bulbul there. It's good, isn't it? I like it.
Top work.
Her wardrobe is certainly something else. So it's good to see her drawing skills in action as well. But really well done to everybody that took part. Wonderful, wonderful pictures. So many of you chatting tonight. Hellos from North Dorset, from Blackburn, from West Sussex, from Tyneside, from Donegal. Just lots of you in the conversation. Barry Carter says, nice to see you again, Lindsay. Barry, it's great to see you. And a really interesting conversation about lentil crisps. Yes, it's still going on, and someone's now diverted onto hummus crisps, but I just don't think we have enough time, you know?
But we don't have
Wow.
enough crisps.
You didn't bring any with you
I
tonight.
just, but there were,
I was expecting
Well-
you to come with lentil chips, and they weren't here, and I haven't told you yet, but I was saved up all day. I haven't eaten anything all day because I was prepared for the lentil chips, and they haven't arrived.
That's because when I went to the lentil chip cupboard, the cupboard
Well,
was
look,
bare.
Megan, go on the chat afterwards because there's so many recommendations of where to buy them and how to buy them. So, have a look at that. But it is a joy to be with you, particularly today. It's Valentine's Day. There's nowhere I'd rather be than with all of you on Valentine's Day. And I had a look through the Self-Isolating Bird Club group at some quite fabulous pictures that I think sum up today quite well. So first of all, have a look at this. This is a coy chaffinch, really, peeking out by Alan Price. Look at that!
Hey, listen, that chaffinch could be naked behind that
what
leaf.
I thought.
It could be naked.
It's like it's peeking out, like it's like, oh, don't look at me.
Yeah.
It's like, paint me like one of your French girls, Jack from Titanic.
I think that's a brilliant comment to sum it up, Megs, because that's what I thought as well. I thought, oh, it's not wearing anything behind that. Very saucy. Lovely. And then if you can imagine the other side of that date, here is a robin who's really dressed up for the occasion.
My goodness me, what's that?
It's a mealworm.
Oh,
what
it's
is
waxworm.
It's a waxworm.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the present. That's the gift that any lady robin would be wanting tonight.
That is, forget the red roses, forget the chocolate.
Just
come on,
greasy
waxworm.
A greasy waxworm. They're easily pleased, those robins.
Alison Delaney snapped that one, and you're absolutely right. It is the perfect gift. I was also really interested because David Purser got in touch with me and he took some footage. Now, this was sort of last October, so October 2020. And he was out walking on the River Otter in Devon with his wife, Sarah, and his two girls who are called Jasmine and Jessica. And they saw these two hornets. And frankly, it's Valentine's Day. So I thought I'd bring this up because he wants to know, is this a mating ritual? What's going on here?
Well, it certainly looks that way, doesn't it? Now, what you can notice is that the hornet on top has got long black antennae, and the other hornet has the cinnamon shorter antennae. This tells me that that hornet on top is a male, because male wasps and hornets have significantly longer antennae. They're not equipped with a sting, so if ever you see these insects, you can pick them up with no fear of getting stung. And the scale, the sheer bulk and scale of the animal beneath tells me that it's a queen and not a sterile female worker. And so, frankly, this is an astonishing clip, because I've never seen hornets mating. I can't think of anyone who's ever seen hornets mating or recorded this. There is John Waters, of course, our entomologist friend down in the West Country. He's a brilliant naturalist, actually. I think we should send it to him for comment. But that was a mating.
Yeah.
They were attempting to
really
mate.
Cool.
Amazing, absolutely amazing.
Amazing clip.
Well, David will be really, really pleased to hear that because he was excited to find the footage, but said that he really didn't know much about it. So brilliant to expand on that a little bit on Valentine's Day as well. A couple of other pictures just to show you this pair of otters. And I like this because it's like, nah, actually, no.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah, it's turning the other cheek, isn't it? The otter on the left side is turning the other cheek. I'm just getting back to the hornets, though, Lindsay, because they were mating on the ground. And, again, I don't know. You see, queen bees mate in the air. And the males, they go to very particular places where the males aggregate in anticipation of the females. And this can be quite high up in the sky. And the queens fly in. And obviously, mating whilst you're flying is quite tricky. So the male bees have explosive penises, which literally blow up in order to affect the mating process. And for some reason, I'd always imagined, because they're both hymenopterans, social insects, so on and so forth, that hornets would mate on the wing as well. But those animals were on the ground.
They're heavier, aren't they?
They are heavier.
Maybe it's manoeuvring in the air and it becomes tricky because they are, if you ever handle a hornet in comparison to a bee or a wasp, they are much heavier.
It's true.
Much chunkier. So, that kind of aerodynamic mating whilst flying, exploding penis saga might be tricky in the air.
Yeah. But nevertheless, look, I'll tell you what, we'll investigate that thoroughly. I'm very excited by that little clip, actually. Really.
That's brilliant. And sort of not a conversation I thought I'd be having tonight. So very interesting indeed. Thank you. As I say, David will be really, really pleased to hear that.
It's all good biology. That's what we're here to serve. We're just here, matter of fact.
It's fascinating biology. And obviously the chat's gone wild on that subject as well. So lovely, lovely stuff. I would like to show you a pair of gannets though, because one thing I did want to ask today was about animals or birds that are monogamous or choose a mate for life, and then others that really don't. So we've been talking about the pangolin. Gannets, I think, pretty much do, maybe unless one of the pair die, and obviously they go away when they separate when they've mated as well. But just interesting biology that some animals do that and some don't.
Yeah, well, normally it's the longer lived ones. It makes more sense because if you're going to live a long time, and you've invested in forming a bond, a pair bond, to have to redo that every year is going to be energetically expensive. It's going to take you a lot of time. If you've already got a pair bond in place, if you're going to live for something like 20, 30, 40, in the case of some of the albatross species, 70 years, it really pays to have a lifelong mate. And what we see is that in order to ensure that monogamy lasts for 70 years. In the case of albatross, for instance, albatross do this remarkable dance. We've been talking about it, haven't we, with our northern royals. When they come back, they greet one another, they put their wings out, they cant their head back, they clatter their bill, and they circle around. Now, all of that is genetically programmed. Albatross can dance, but what they do when they start dancing to form their initial pair bond is that they make the dance very peculiar and particular to that pair. So it's the same sort of steps, but the subtle nuances of the dance ensure that it only works maximally with that male and female. So if another male comes in, it might know the rough steps, but it's not going to win strictly. But so that's again a way of being able to reinforce that. And we see it with gannets. They go through this billing ritual when they meet up. And they're very tactile, they allo groom the whole time.
But it's also about number of offspring though, isn't it? Because these long-lived species will have probably only one chick every couple of years. Every couple of years.
Yeah.
So, you want to invest in that pair bond. And by doing so, you can kind of secure, every couple of years, you'll be able to have hopefully a fertile, viable offspring. However, if you think, take the blue tit, for example, they've got a lot of overlapping territories and they do something called extra pair copulation. So whilst they might be seasonally monogamous, i.e. there might be a pair together for just the breeding season, the males and the females will go off sneakily and mate with other individuals. And of course, that then increases genetic diversity within the brood. And those shorter lived species like the bluebirds, like the great tits, will want to make sure that they can mate with as many different people as possible so that they can have more offspring. They might have 5-6 eggs, perhaps 5-6 chicks to rear. And they'll do so every year. So they can maximize genetic diversity by doing things that way. So you've got different groups of species. It's called R and K strategy species, the long-lived individuals that have few offspring, and then the short-lived individuals which have a lot.
But as you pointed out, there are these extra pair copulations. And recently, because we've now been able to use DNA samples far more widely and far more cheaply, we've been able to look at who is the parent of any of the animals in the brood or in the litter. And what we found is quite extraordinary. So in a starling's nest, for instance, they look monogamous in the breeding season. A male will sit outside guarding the female, singing away, dutifully feeding the chicks. Only 50% of them are his. The rest have been sired by extra pair copulations. In badgers, where we always presumed that there was one dominant male, in fact, again, 50% of that group of young badgers have been sired by extra pair copulations. And sometimes animals change their physiology in order to affect this. So again, if we go to birds, buffalo weavers, for instance, are a social species. So they're nesting in big communal nests, which means that there's no trouble trying to access a mate, but there's strong competition for mates. And what female buffalo weavers will do is to not upset their partners, and therefore they would abandon them. They will fly about 400 meters from the nest, and they'll fly into deep cover. Normally they're a bird of open places. They'll fly right into the heart of a bush, and there they will meet up with a scurrilous male and copulate with it. And to ensure that the copulation is successful, because it's got to be brief and furtive, male buffalo weavers have one of the largest penises in the bird world. It's what we call an intromittent organ, whereas normally birds just have that cloaca, which is a combined urogenitory orifice. Buffalo weavers have intromittent organs, and they're particularly large. So there we go.
Well, there you go. It's the biology of survival, essentially, isn't it? And it is absolutely fascinating. Question that's come in immediately on that from David says, when will garden birds start to pair up and find nesting spots? Because in this weather, it feels like that's quite a long way off. We know spring's around the corner, but when will they take those signs from the natural world to start doing that?
Well, day length is important. It's normally a combination of factors. There's, again, it's a genetical programming. There's day length and there's temperature, and they all invariably play a role. I saw blue tits this morning.
Yeah.
We were doing a radio thing this morning, Megs and I was sat in the garden looking at my nest box, and there were blue tits investigating it. And they're not thinking about breeding yet, but what they are thinking about is, are there nesting opportunities in this area where I'm thinking about breeding? Because there's no point in setting up a territory if there's no holes in a tree to put a nest in, or a nest box in this case. So you should start to see them investigating the nest boxes, well, from now on.
We saw that on Winter Watch, didn't we? We had a great tit and a blue tit both checking out the same spot.
Yeah,
and then, but a little bit of competition there as who gets the best spots within the territory. So that's why they're going out and investigating their local area at the moment. So it's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and as the day length begins to grow, more and more birds will start singing, and once they start singing, they'll start forming those pair bonds and
doing their thing.
And then when it
doing
comes
their thing,
to the eggs, they lay the eggs, but then they can lay those eggs, and when they decide to start incubating them, in the case of the great tit, it comes down to temperature. So once you've started to incubate an egg, you've got to continue it, otherwise it will die. But if you lay an egg and just leave it, it can live for some time before you need to start incubating it. So what we see with great tits is that they're beginning to address some of the issues with climate change, i.e. the spring's coming earlier, by laying their eggs and then not incubating them. They just leave them there, like waiting. And then they'll time the start of their incubation dependent on temperature to try and maximise the success of hatching and then feeding their young. So those are the sorts of adaptations that we're beginning to see happen.
It's just fascinating, isn't it, how they adapt as well to the changes that are happening in the natural world, and how we're able to start tracking that as well. Let me talk to you both though about pangolins. Obviously it's the big conversation tonight. Marion had no idea about the pangolin, so she's very pleased that you've raised awareness tonight. People are saying they're surprised at how cute they are as well, and I think that is really true. They do have that sort of wonderful characteristic. I know we don't go on about cute too much, but it is quite interesting to see that response. I think.
I don't know what's going on. I think
they are very cute. But I had one cool fact, right? And to illustrate the pangolin anatomy, I'm going to stand up. Can I stand back here? So essentially, pangolins, right, have got the most long, elaborate tongues of anyone. They've got to get their tongue right into the burrows of ants and termites and everything else to eat. They've got very sticky tongues. But their tongue doesn't just go back to the back of their throat like it does for us. What happens is actually the tongue originates all the way at the hip joint. So their tongue goes from their hind legs, in the middle of their hind legs, all the way up their body into their mouth. Now that is a cool bit of anatomy.
Hey, that is cool anatomy. I think, we might have one more photograph. Fabian, have you got that picture that I sent you of the pangolin that we photographed, peeping out of its ball? Because again, I try not to use the C word.
But it is the cutest.
While we're looking for that, actually, a question, and Megs, you've sort of preempted beautifully with that very nice demonstration. Somebody did want to know how long the tongues are, so that is just incredible.
How big ones?
Yeah, they can be over a metre, and they are incredibly sticky. They have to be, of course, because they're really dexile as well. They can go in and they wiggle around, and if honestly Google pangolin tongue on YouTube and see them stick their tongue out, because they go all over the place and they're quite thin and narrow, but they're the most amazing creatures. And yeah, it's something that is just, I see. Oh, we have the photo. This is a photo that Chris took.
Okay.
Let's have a little look.
Look.
Oh my goodness, look at that little eye.
Look at him peeping.
Little peeping.
Or her peeping.
Yeah.
That's so fabulous. And the question actually off the back of that was, how heavy are they? Because we did see the picture earlier of you picking one up.
Yeah.
It's a good question.
They're very heavy. I guess the weight of the pangolin is always my favourite little thing at the church bazaar, the church fair. Guess the weight of the pangolin. They're a solid mass of the scales. The scales are very dense. They're very muscular because they need all those muscles to roll themselves into a ball. I guess that pangolin that we had there, we've just moved it, but I do remember having to heft it. I'm saying that pangolin weighed 10 or 12 kilograms.
Yeah, but I have to say the scales pretty much contribute nothing to the weight.
No, they are body mass.
The body mass. They're a chunky. Their bodies. They've got really small legs, and if you look at the anatomy of their legs and the bone structure, I won't get into it because it's quite complicated. But they've got very different bone structures in all of their legs. It enables them for digging and for walking. The front 2 legs are all for digging and excavating. The back 2 legs are all for walking.
So they walk like a tyrannosaur.
Yeah. So when you see them walk, they walk like this.
They
with their
stand
arms
up.
Like this.
They don't walk along the ground like
not on 4 legs.
Like a
like this.
quadruped. They stand up and go along like a little velociraptor.
They do. They're really, really funky little things. But the scales. I mean, it's made of keratin, exactly the same as our fingernails and hair. So if they weigh absolutely nothing, scales, all of the bulk is in the body.
That's why when you hear of 30 tons of pangolin scales, you know that's a vast number of these poor animals that have been slaughtered to satisfy this insidious trade in traditional medicine.
That was an astonishing number. That was something I was obviously watching along, and it's sort of horrifying, isn't it, when you hear numbers like that? It's just astonishing. So brilliant to raise the awareness, and also to have those demonstrations, which was something else tonight, you two. Thanks very much. A couple of things from me before I sign off. One, good news on the Love Minsmere campaign, but please do keep the pressure on there. It's really important. We mentioned it at the beginning of the show. So, do keep that pressure up, please, as well. Sandra's already subscribed to the YouTube channel for Self-Isolating Bird Club. So if you haven't done it already, seriously, it's free. Just hit subscribe. So easy. The quiz, I know you're coming onto that, but that went crazy tonight. So many answers flooded through. And then the sound as well. Lots of people, I think, getting that right tonight. And the thing I'm going to end on is a rather stunning picture of a pied wagtail, and this has been sent in by Ian Harris, and I'd just love you two to have a look at this.
Look at the bokeh, you see.
I like the bokeh.
I like the bokeh.
Good.
We love out of focus highlights.
I love a bit of an out of focus light.
Yeah. But hold on, I'm just going to put my glasses on. Oh, it's snow.
Is it snow?
Yeah, it's snow.
No, is it?
I think there's a little bit of snow there.
Maybe a little bit on the snow. Yeah,
I mean, Ian, I love your photo. I think the lighting's delicious. It's absolutely pin sharp. Couple of things I'm not quite so keen on. Stray bit of moss on the left-hand side. Obviously, a little bit of filigree there. Not so keen on that. The waxworms. I mean, I don't want to see those waxworms. And frankly, that pied wagtail needed some time in a spa.
Okay, well, look, it's definitely time for me to jump in. Final question from me then after that critique is from Jeff Pierce, who's on the chat tonight, and he says, do wagtails pair for life? We've been talking about that.
No, I don't think they do.
Seasonally monogamous.
Yeah, seasonally monogamous, that's exactly right. So garden birds that sort of pair for life would be bullfinch, and they stay together throughout the course of the year. If you see a male, you invariably see a female and vice versa. So they will stay together. You'll see them. Collared doves stay together throughout the course of the year. They'll breed in any month of the year. So maybe that's that as well. But even animals which are famed for their monogamy, like mute swans, for instance, don't necessarily stay together through the winter. So that sort of 365, day pair bond thing is relatively rare. There is another species. I'm trying to think what it is.
There's lots of different forms of monogamy, which is quite interesting when you look into the details of exactly how many species. And maybe we'll do a piece on that about kind of sexual selection and sexual pairings.
Yeah.
Maybe do a bit of that.
Yeah.
Fun.
Okay. I'm just trying to think that.
Do something about that, definitely. And Chris will remember that other one. I can see him really looking for that in his brain. So if you think of it, do come back to us. But really wonderful to spend this evening with you both, with you all at home as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I will return at some point soon.
Yeah.
Happy Valentine's Day, Lindsay. Lots of love to you.
Take care. Bye for now.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye. That was good, wasn't it?
There we are.
Nice.
Fantastic stuff.
Should we reveal the quiz?
Should we reveal the quiz?
Yes, I feel like we should.
Go on then.
Lots of people did get it right. I have to say, well done to everyone. They did, yeah.
Wow.
Well, because I did also show this feather.
Oh, I see. You gave them a giveaway.
Was I not meant to show the second feather?
Oh, I was going to be, kind of.
Well,
you were kind. I was going to be mean.
Oh, I see.
Okay, so
people who got them right, as you show, I'll read out the names. So well done to Margaret, Charlotte, Simon, Fesgod, Sandra, Kate, Mandy, Rosemary, Mary, Abby, Trevor, Jane, Beverly, Emily, Danny, Sue, Meg, Manda, Penny, and Wildlife Rufus.
Yeah, so firstly, they're incredibly stiff, and that's because the animal that has or had these feathers was resting on them when it was clinging to a tree, and they act as a really stiff vein there like that, and you can hear it thwacking. That's how I mean, it's a short feather. This feather is what, 10 centimetres long? Less than that, 9.8 centimetres long perhaps, and it's really, really stiff because it's used as a brace when the bird is leaning on the tree. And then this one here, it was that little bit of russet, that little bit of cinnamon and russet, and a couple of spots on the edge of these tail feathers, which would have betrayed it if I refer to my new favourite book.
You love the bird book.
Oh, here we are. Yes. So here we are, flight identification of European passerines. Yes.
Enjoying that.
I'm loving wild guides. Look, anyway, look, here we are. Here are the ladder-backed woodpeckers. And if you look really carefully, you'll be able to see that the tail feathers there of the great spotted woodpecker are tinged with chestnut. Yes. So those
look at
belong.
Look at the little one.
Yeah, look at that. There we are. Look, and you can
There's
see
a male
it.
there.
It's probably resting on its tail there, look, you see. And then, you just got a glimpse of those feathers as it turned and flew as well. The pale
Beautiful bird.
and cinnamon in the tail.
I love a great spot.
Bolshy, loud, drumming's beautiful.
Oh.
I've heard them drumming already.
Yeah, there's something to look out for around this time of year as the drumming starts.
Yeah.
You know, throughout the spring, we always had our male, didn't we, that was coming to the bird feeder. I used to come
Yeah.
down every morning and chat to him. Couldn't hear
What
me.
did you say?
Well, I said, good morning, enjoying those peanuts. I'm here making a bit of some crumpets. I love a crumpet. And we had a bit of a chinwag caught up, and then he... Anyway, we should get through onto our birthdays.
Yeah.
Lots of birthdays to say. Happy birthday to you. So it's Mary's birthday today. She's watched all of our shows. Thank you very much, Mary. Valerie from North Devon is 58 today. Also watched every single one of our broadcasts. I'm surprised by how many people have stuck. Well, thank you very much. It's a lot to get
Very
through.
flattered. Thank you and happy birthday.
Yeah. Rebecca, who is not only a big fan of SIBC, but also insists on telling everyone about it. So thank you very much, Rebecca. Very happy birthday to you. Tomorrow we've got Alan, who's 62, and he also loves watching the show. Birthdays for next week. We've got Lisa from County Down. It's her birthday on the 17th. We've got Val from Calgary, Alberta. Birthday is also on the 17th. All the way from Calgary. Happy birthday, Val. Dave from Good Karma Food tells us it's Charlotte, his wife's birthday on the 18th. Very happy birthday to you, Charlotte. And Paul has also written in for Vivian, whose birthday is on the 20th of February. And also a very happy belated birthday to Dave, who was 75 yesterday. Happy birthday to you all. Lots of love to everyone.
Okay, and remember, if you do want to have your birthday request read out, then it's birthdays at sibird.club. Birthdays at sibird.club. Happy birthday to all of those people.
Now,
Coming up, what's happening? Paul Morton, Birds of Paul Harbour.
Yes.
We've got our Rewilding conference coming up.
our summit.
A summit.
Rewilding.
It's a summit, is it?
And yes, it is. Rewilding and
Okay.
Reintroduction Summit that we're going to be hosting on the 10th of April.
Do you know
Which we're
what?
very excited about.
Technically, I'm always quite keen on my sort of, making sure that I hone my lexicon.
Oh, yeah.
So what I'm going to have to now get straight to the dictionary to see what's the difference between
And
a
a
summit
summit.
and a conference.
I don't know, actually. It's a good question.
Summit. The same thing happened. People gather and talk about something which interests them, and they share
We're going to
knowledge.
gather and we're going to talk
Yeah,
about reintroduction and rewilding, which we're very excited about.
So we're having a conference summit. Anyway, Paul, and it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah,
but
this is
in the
very exciting.
run up to that, they're organising a series of podcasts
They
from
are.
rewilding experts, so you can prepare yourself for the conference summit.
Slash gathering of people.
Yes, / gathering of people. And when are they going out, Beast?
Well, they've already started going out, I believe. So the first one's already out. I think I've seen it on social media. So make sure you go and check that out. There'll be details of the podcast in the link below. So make sure you keep up. There's going to be one every single week in the lead up. Some really fascinating conversations with the people at the forefront of their field.
Yeah.
So it's going to be
Reintroductions,
fantastic.
rewilding. I expect Roy Dennis will be doing something.
Roy Dennis.
He's really brilliant. Izzy and
Lovely
Charlie
show.
from NEP,
Izzy,
of course.
Charlie and Nep. David Gow, perhaps.
Yeah, Derek Gow.
Yeah.
Derek Gow. And then Pete Cairns up in Scotland. I mean,
There's lots of people.
There's loads of people,
Lots of people,
doing
so-
really, really, really good
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
Yeah, talk about
Excellent stuff.
everything. So
Okay.
yeah, keep up with that. So next week, I believe we're going to be joined by Emma Mitchell.
Emma Mitchell.
Emma Mitchell.
Excellent.
We love Emma.
We do.
We do. So we'll be catching up with her, finding out what she's been up to. Of course, talking about mental health and how nature can help us through this lockdown, which is, of course, really important.
Mhm.
But for now, we'll see you next week at 6 p.m. Make sure you subscribe.
Yep.
And happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Whether you're celebrating with a partner, loving yourself, or loving your pet dog, it doesn't matter.
No.
Show yourself a bit of love. Run yourself a bubble bath.
Yep.
Get a glass of wine or a glass of orange juice.
And
depending
remember,
on
what
the
you've got to,
rage.
you've got to Google pangolin tongue
Pangolin tongue.
and exploding penis.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Good luck with that. Don't get yourself into trouble. Bye.
Good night.